If you ever wonder about all those dang cliches that writers have to deal with and whether they're true or not, we're going to be talking about them. I'm calling it the flossing of writing. And this is I Should Be Writing, episode 53 of season 17.
Well, I should be writing. I should be working on my craft. I should be writing. I should be submitting my next draft. But I'm sitting home watching Doctor Who.
So hi there, welcome to I Should Be Writing. This is a podcast for wannabe fiction writers. I'm your host, Mer Lafferty. I do podcasting, I do streaming, and yes, I do write, so I know a little bit about what I'm talking about, even though when I started this podcast 16 years and 1 day ago, I did not have anything published. People are still going into the archives wanting to listen to episode 1, which scares the hell out of me, frankly. I don't want to go back and listen to it. But here on the show, I like to talk to people about what could help them in their writing career, what's stopping them from starting a writing career. So first, I am very proud of myself. I finally finished my novella last week and letting it sit for a little bit. I'll probably start edits tomorrow, and I can finally talk about what it is. I checked with my editor, and apparently Audible is not like other publishers where they don't keep the moratorium and make a big announcement. So I am doing an Audible original, tentatively titled The Ophelia Network, and it will be only on Audible. I believe it'll be free on Audible. That's what they're doing with most of their originals. But if you, my agent and I will of course be trying to sell print and ebook rights, or I will self-publish it. So if you can't get it because you don't have Audible, or you're not in the US, then just wait. It'll be out either by me or by another publisher. But yeah, that's a big load off my shoulders. And I'm looking at everything I neglected. And there's a lot. That's cool. Anyway. I put this in my newsletter, and yes, I do have a newsletter now. It's very exciting. I did not port my email over from the last newsletter I had, so I would appreciate people signing up for it. It's free. And I would appreciate if they told your friends. A lot of people, want to support podcasters or streamers, and they can't do it financially, and the best way to do it is to spread the word. People want to hear what you're excited about. And if you're excited about my streams, my podcast, then the best thing you can do is tell somebody. Very much appreciated. But as for good news, I don't think I have any. It's Tuesday. I got to go on vacation. That was nice. Yeah, I don't have a lot, I don't think. Numbers Ninja, if there's something I'm forgetting, let me know. Well, the good news is I got permission from the garages to play their music on my stream. And I love their stuff so very much. They have many, many, many different kinds of genres they dabble in. There's garage rock, there's synth pop, there's sea shanties, there's a country album, there's a ska album, there's a rock album. Yeah. So, and it's just a really interesting band that sprung up during pandemic times with people, I believe, all over the world. These musicians don't play together. They play online together. I wonder how they deal with lag. Huh. Yay for no bad dentist news. That's true, I did go for my cleaning yesterday. Always high anxiety time, and my dentist never believes me, even though I tell her I sit still because I want it to be over faster. I know if I complain or whine or wiggle or tell her to stop just for a second or whatever, that will prolong things. So, yeah, I don't look like I'm afraid because I'm just willing it to be over faster. Heavy editing. Oh, heavy editing to deal with lag. Yes, I suppose so. Yeah, Underpope, I think it's the best way. But, yeah, I went to the dentist and nothing was wrong. I had probably some sympathy pains from Numbers Ninja's recent surgery. So, yeah, the brain, it'll do stuff to you, man. There's my wisdom for the day. I'm like Pascal in Animal Crossing. The brain, it'll do stuff to you, man. Yeah. But anyway, if anybody in the chat or listening to this later has a good news, please let me know because I love to spread it. I won't mention names, but somebody had said that they had gotten a rejection. It was their first rejection, and they were trying to see it as good news, but they're just going to wait a little while because it hurts now. And I never ever want y'all to think that you shouldn't have bad feelings when you get rejected. It sucks. I fully know it sucks. But I think of it like you decide to get in shape by taking a boxing class. And the person beside you does not decide to get in shape. So you get in the ring and you get hit and you fall down and it hurts. But that doesn't change the fact that you're in the boxing gym working out, which the other person isn't doing. That's why I try to celebrate it, because even if you fall down, even if you get hit, even if it hurts, you're still doing it. And you haven't let it beat you. I know so many people who had promising creative careers but couldn't handle rejection. So they just stopped. And it's really sad. One of the best actors from my high school, was also kind of a slacker and didn't really do anything to pursue acting. Oh, Shale has double news. Have a rejection and the anthology you're in was released today. Why is my yay button broken? I gotta write that down to fix it. I pushed the yay button for you, Shale. Oh. There we go. Not sure why that happened. Oh well, doesn't matter. There we are. Sorry, I was waiting on potential great news. Well, we will wait with you and be excited when it comes. Does that button work now? Okay, the yay button's just totally broken. Val has good news. I got sample cover sketches for book 3 today, and they're all great, and everybody likes the same one best. That's awesome. I hope it's in the same style as your first one, because that was a very eye-catching cover. So yeah, it's exciting to hear people's publishing news, and never think that I don't think rejection hurts. I'm the one who has a full day to recover from rejection. I sit on the couch, I'm sad, I have red wine, I have chocolate, and I pout. And then the next day I get back up and I go back to work. And I've learned that if I don't give myself that pouting time, it will fester. It'll be just like this thing in the back of my head that I deny, saying, no, I'm fine. And then days will pass and I'll wonder why I still feel crappy. It's because I didn't let myself mourn, and that's really what it is. So when you get rejected, it will hurt. Very likely. But, still got to remind yourself what you're doing to get rejected. And that is what countless people who have the same dream as you are not doing. We say we're not supposed to compare yourself to anybody else, but I think when you're comparing yourself to people who aren't doing anything at all, it's valid. So I'm staying with it. So yeah, last call for good news in the chat. Congratulations to the rejections and the anthologies. Let's see, Cheryl, can you post a link to your anthology in the chat? I'm not sure if you have permission. If you can't post a picture, whisper to Numbers Ninja, and they'll post it. Thank you, Numbers Ninja. Okay. So, this idea comes from the dentist. Yeah, I had some very bad experiences as a kid. I don't know what was up with dental work in the 80s, but I feel like a lot of people my age have some sort of deep within you, like, fear. Mine was from a couple of extractions that they did not fully numb me for, and the rest of the day. Good times. So yeah, I hate the dentist. And but I know that if I don't, it's just like I said earlier, if I sit still, it'll be over faster. But that I go for my cleanings because I know if I don't and I eventually go in, it's going to be so much worse. But the one thing I'm not good at doing is flossing. And I don't know what it is about content warning, blood. I don't know what it is about the mouth, but I know that if I floss and it hasn't been a while, there will be blood. But I also know if I keep flossing, the blood will eventually stop, which means my gums are getting healthier. So why don't I do it all the time? It's a nuisance, but it's that thing of everybody knows you should floss. And yet a lot of us don't do it. And I see a lot of writing advice to be like flossing. Because I was going to talk about the old raising the stakes cliche, the thing that authors hate to hear. Actually, all of these are going to be what authors hate to hear. You go to the dentist and they say, yeah, you need to be flossing. You're like, I know that. Tell me something that will make me floss other than you need to be flossing. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what that would be. But I think a lot of times people just say the words without knowing what it means. Recently, just today, I had lunch with my cousin who's a medical technology person who works in immunology, and there's a lot of ologies and high-level degrees there. And I was talking about how language does not evolve in science, and it does evolve in general population, which is why flat earthers will say that evolution's just a theory, because theory has changed exactly what it means through language evolving, but it has not changed for science. And I didn't really know what the novel coronavirus really meant. And reporters would just keep saying it, novel coronavirus, novel coronavirus. And once I realized that novel meant no one had ever seen it before, they didn't know what it was going to do, or what it would react to, or what it wouldn't react to, that's when I got really scared. So it's that thing where there's a lot of times we just say words and don't technically fully understand what they mean. So I'm going to go into what raising the stakes means. And I am not ashamed. I will make sure, I promise that I looked it up, that I made sure I spelled it correctly. Because it's not raising the stakes like herding cattle. It's raising the stakes like what Buffy used to kill vampires. But then there are even different stakes than that, but it's spelled like that. So, I think it was J. Michael Straczynski who said, you want to take your characters and you want to chase them, I'm paraphrasing here, but chase them through the desert at night, barefoot. They're barefoot, you're not. Until they get up into a tree, and then you want to throw rocks at them. And I've said this before in talking about characterization, in that we need to be mean to our characters because that will show our readers what our characters are capable of. Which is, is supposed to be the exciting part. And I don't know if I'm just mellowing or I'm still processing pandemic stuff, but one of my biggest problems with this novella I've been writing is I wasn't raising the stakes. It's like these people live in a tightly controlled environment, and that's supposed to be scary, but scary stuff really wasn't happening to them. And I realized I had to ratchet everything up. And this is something that's good to do on edits, because when you take a step back and you can look at your story and you can see each scene needs to have something moving the story forward. Ideally, each scene would have a small conflict that's resolved or not resolved but goes to the next conflict. Creates the chain reaction thing. Unfortunately, it may create ripples, and the little thing you change in chapter 1 might be like rewriting chapter 15 entirely. But that's what happens if you want to make your story exciting. And I mean exciting on a level of people want to keep reading. If you're writing romance and it's about a career woman, it's not going to have action scenes, but it can still be exciting. So, how you do it? Because a lot of people may not know. Or your brain is tired. But one thing to do is to look at their past and look at the people in their past. I am fond of planting little plot seeds that may or may not grow. And what I do is I'll throw in, I'll usually use a relative, because a relative from the past can always show up. Friends, not so much. But, no one's going to wonder that it's a big coincidence that your uncle's back in your life, because it's your uncle. And so, in the novella I just wrote, I have my main character getting fired. And as she's getting fired, she's getting texted by her mother that they're fleeing the country. And it was going to be, we've had enough. It's getting stressful. We are going to go live with your grandmother. And I'm like, well, isn't that pleasant? That's the most pleasant, easygoing, political exile story I've ever heard. So, I had to make them fleeing the country. I had to make them maybe not be welcome where they go. I have to make her worry about them, which will influence her decisions later on. But it took me a couple of drafts to get there. I had her boss firing her and surreptitiously saying, it'll be okay because I've got a secret thing for you to do that will be really good for the paper. She's a reporter. And I'm thinking, I'm pretty sure she just needs to be fired. And the editor can still have plans for her, but it's not going to be so, you're fired, but here's a note telling you everything that's secret. Saying it out loud is really embarrassing that I was just so nice to these people. That is an excellent question, Bill. When you plant plot seeds that you don't use, do you go back and remove them? No, because the plot seeds I plant are just, they're like, for example, the one I'm thinking of. I had a book called Playing for Keeps, and at one point, the main character, who has a very small, lousy superpower, references her uncle, who's a lawyer. And my plan was, if I ever got to do another book in that world, her uncle, who was a lawyer, would be actually super lawyer and have some major convincing argument power. Kind of like the rumor, but with less short skirts, fewer short skirts. I'm referencing Umbrella Academy. If you haven't seen it, it's excellent. But I didn't get that second book. So now it's just, she mentioned she has a lawyer, and it's just, here's a little bit more backstory. So that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. You could say, I once knew a kid who got run over by a car and was miraculously unharmed, and then that just gives a little bit of backstory for the character. And later you can have the kid show up or not. But it's, I actually had a problem with this in, I don't like trashing books, because I never want anyone to do it to me, and I kind of hope if I have a nice, if I'm nice, people will be nice back. And I know that's not the case in the world. But I recently read Lock Every Door by Riley Sager, and it wasn't that good. And one thing that got me was the main character's sister disappeared before the book started. And while the book was not about her sister, the fact that her sister disappeared is referenced over and over again. And it's only referenced as a sign that she's obsessed with this, but it's not anything that's addressed or finalized or solved by the end. And to me, that felt like a bigger mystery than the one she was living. And that made the book weaker. And I kept reading because I wanted to see how he was going to put the sister in the book. And he never did. And I won't give away any of the other spoilers. It's only a spoiler saying, I thought this was going to happen and it didn't. That's the kind of little plot seed you might want to take out if you don't do that. Because especially in thrillers, mysteries and thrillers these days seem to have the main sleuth having some sort of connection to the murder, whether they know it now or not. That wasn't the case with, like, the 1930s mysteries, but it seems to be the case now. Girl on the Train did it. Oh gosh, all the other ones are leaving my head, but many of the ones I've read. When you're writing, you can take your scenes and ask yourself honestly if the character made it through that scene too easily. Ask yourself if someone's going to read this and think, oh my God, how are they getting out of that? This is why The Martian was so expertly paced. Because literally at the end of every chapter I'm thinking, how is he getting out of this one? Oh my God, something bigger just happened. How is he getting out of this one? I mean, he already put a man stranded on Mars by himself with today's technology. And he still had to make a whole bunch of horrible things happen to him. So that's what you can think about, because that keeps people reading when they're wondering, how are they going to get out of this one? And if you don't give them a this one to get out of, then that's the time that people are going to put down the book and they're going to go to bed, and the next night they might just pick a different book because you're not making them wonder when they're not reading. So that's today's flossing advice. Raising the stakes keeps people engaged and makes them wonder about your book when they're not even reading it. I think it was Cory Doctorow who said that fanfic is great because it means that your world is living on in someone's head after you stop telling the story. And I'll give my usual caveat that you should never... It is technically a copyright violation, and you should never try to sell it. But some authors hate fanfic, and others think that's a really big... That's flattering as hell. It's so flattering to think that your world lives on in somebody else's mind. Oh, and never send it to that author. That's bad too, just for legal reasons. So I'm going to stop the recording here and bid farewell to my listeners on the RSS feed. If you would like to subscribe to I Should Be Writing, you can do so at pretty much any podcatcher, as we used to say in the olden days. Any podcatcher you find, you can search for me, you can search for I Should Be Writing, and you can have it delivered to your device. You can find out more about me at the website, merverse.com. The email is mightymur@gmail.com. Nailed it. So you can also support me on Patreon, but I also have accounts on Jemmy and Buy Me a Coffee for slightly different memberships and rewards. They all will allow you into the Discord, which is private, and they will allow you into the vast archives of I Should Be Writing and Ditch Diggers, which I just cleaned up. So for as little as $1 a month, you can get so many hours of content. And that's patreon.com/mightymur. And I think the others are similarly easy to figure out. But I'll be back on in a couple of days, and we'll be talking about the next level of flossing, which will be where to start your story. But have a good day, and you should be writing.
I do this to myself?
This podcast is brought to you by my Patreon supporters. If you would also like to join the ink-stained fabulists, go to patreon.com/mightymur.
Up on that shelf, on the spine of a paperback.